from Wolverhampton originally. How did you end up in rugby league?
No, to be honest, I've no idea really. It was totally by chance. Basically, I used to play for amateur rugby union for Bradford and Bingley, and I played with them when I was about 15 till I was about 19. But then I had to leave to concentrate on my career and studying and getting my degree and my postgraduate qualifications. So I left the game for a while. But in the interim, I was doing martial arts and athletics and weight training. So with a combination of them all, I maintained my fitness, etc. So when I've completed all my studies, when I was 23, I decided to go back to playing rugby again. I went back to Bradford and Bingley. And obviously, I'd actually bulked up. I was even quicker than I was before, stronger, faster. And then I started playing for Bradford and Bingley and started scoring these wonder tries and getting a bit of a reputation for being a good finisher. And then a scout came from Keighley. It was from Keighley, actually. And he asked me if I'd be interested in going across to Hull and having a tryout for them, thinking that potentially I might be able to sign on with them. But I didn't think anything of it. But I said, yeah, I'll go along, because in them days I just wanted to play rugby, and I'd never actually. That was my first game of rugby league actually, that trial game that I went across to Hull, and it was in the academy game in the back of Beyond. I don't know where we were. Anyway, I came off the pitch and I was so disappointed, because normally I was used to scoring 2 or 3 tries. And they'd made loads of breaks and things like that, but I wasn't scoring tries, so I was really upset with myself. So I said to the scout afterwards, I said, it wasn't a particularly good game. He says, well, actually, you got man at match and they want you to come back. I said, what? I said, I didn't score any tries. He said, yeah, but you destroyed them. They couldn't contain you. They wanted you to come back for another trial. So I said, yeah, I'm interested in that. So the following week, they had a game between Hull KR and Hull FC, which obviously was a massive derby, but I didn't know this at the time. And there was 15,000 there for this warm-up game, because it was the beginning of the season, but obviously the rivalry is still very fresh. So I went along to the game, thinking we was actually the warm-up, not realising that we were actually the main event. So I gets out there, and I'm thinking that we're still the warm-up. And it's just occurred to me, just as we get to kick off, that actually this is the first team. I'm like, all right, okay, this is all right. And I had a centre then called Daniel Devere. He was an Australian, but he was born in France, but he'd moved to Australia, and he was a French international. And I didn't really know him, but he spoke English very well. So anyway, we got this scrum in their 22, in Hull KR's 22, and we did the scrum move, and he passed the ball to me on the inside, and I beat sort of like 3 players and put it underneath the sticks. Well, obviously the place just erupted, absolutely erupted. And I came off the pitch, and they were there, Hull FC officials were there with a contract ready for me to sign there and then. That's how I got into rugby league. I think that was my second game of rugby league ever. And after that, I didn't look back. I mean, it's just an absolutely fabulous experience from start to finish. And I just felt very privileged to be able to get the opportunity to do it full time as well, because I love training and I enjoy training. And to be paid to do it, it was like, gosh, I was playing for free before that, and then all of a sudden I'm being paid to actually train, and the experience was just phenomenal.
And then from there, was it from there where you ended up playing over in Townsville in the nines?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. From Hull FC, yeah, I went in the nines, which obviously was a nice surprise, and again, a great experience, because prior to that, I'd only ever been abroad once. So, and that's another thing about rugby league. Once I got into rugby league, I travelled that much; it was unbelievable, and I've not stopped since, travelling and experiencing these different cultures and different environments. But the rugby league culture and environment is a very unique experience and a very enjoyable experience. Made a lot of great friends who I'm still in contact with today. Great experiences, great bunch of lads, great set of supporters. The game itself is for me the ultimate in terms of entertainment and comradeship.
And you were playing at Hunslet when Leeds signed. How did you end up at Hunslet?
Well, basically, it was Steve Ferris actually was a coach at Hunslet at the time, and he was good friends with Gary Hetherington. And he said to me at the beginning of the season, in order to entice me away from, because obviously I was dropping a step down, to entice me away from Hull and from the first division as it was then, he said, "Oh well, if you come up and do a job for us," he says, "I tell you now, I'll look after you," kind of thing. And I didn't realise at the time, but actually, Gary Hetherington had already sown the seed with him that he wanted to have a look at me as a potential player to come into Leeds, because at that time, obviously, there was still a lot of conversation around Leeds and what was going to happen to Leeds, because they were hit sort of like financially rock bottom times, really, and that's when all the stars started to leave then. So obviously Gary went in, had a great season at Hunslet part-time, again scoring tries for fun, great bunch of lads. That's when I met my good friend Dave Plange, who used to play at Castleford, and they taught me so much and educated me in the game, and not just about the game, but about the culture of the game as well. So I'll always be grateful for him for that, because he really embraced me and showed me, just showed me the difference between just being a player, but more being a bit more complete, a bit more open, so to speak. And then from Hunslet, I went to Leeds and Dean Bell and Edgar Curtis, the main man. I mean, Edgar Curtis, I could never speak highly enough about Edgar Curtis. I mean, he was, for me, he was exactly what I needed when I got to Leeds, which is somebody that was just as committed, if not more committed, to me being the best version of an athlete that I could possibly be. And no matter what time, no matter what I needed in order to be the best, he was always there, always on hand. And, I would never have achieved as much effort as I achieved in the game without his input. I know that for a fact, because he brought a totally different dimension to my game, to my fitness, to my ability. He enhanced all aspects of it: speed, strength, power. So that was good. And then Dean Bell was just a great man motivator, one of the best stand-up guys I've ever come across. He was just a firm believer. If you worked hard, he'd give you the time of day, no matter what. He'd do whatever it takes. His philosophy was just about hard work. He actually rated hard work above skill, to be honest, in terms of having a big heart and being able to do that little bit extra. And he saw that in me as well. He saw that I was prepared to put in the work and put in hard, and had a great work ethic about me, which was very similar to his work ethic. So again, between the two of them, that first season was by far a season that sort of like made it for me and laid the foundations in terms of my reputation and in terms of my development in the game as well.
Yeah, look back to that 97 season. Leeds had a tough year. They're battling against relegation the previous year in the first Super League season. Gary Hetherington and Paul Caddick had come in at the end of the year. The club hadn't really embraced Super League till that point. Suddenly they were the Rhinos then for the first time. You were one of the first players to ever sign for the club known as Leeds Rhinos.
That's right. Me and Richie signed at the same time, Richie Blackmore. And obviously, I couldn't get a better centre than that on the inside. And all I needed was for him to give me the ball and give me a bit of space, and I'd do the rest. And he did exactly that. Quality player, great player, 100%.
And you were 33 when you came to these. You experienced life outside of rugby. And sport had just gone. The rugby league had just gone full time. How tough was that transition to marry the two up?
Well, actually, it wasn't that bad for me, because I'd got to a point in my career where I'd completed my studies and I'd got my qualifications, and actually had a few years' experience under my belt. So I knew that if I did take a sabbatical and came out, I'd be able to go back into the industry, because my skills were very transferable. And it was such a unique opportunity as well to be able to perform at a level, at an intensity that I could never dream about, and push myself to that level. So it was a no-brainer for me to actually make that transition to full-time. And to be honest, as long as I was able to put food on the table, I was always going to be there, you know what I mean? And like I said, I never looked back, and it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made, and certainly one of the best experiences I've ever had, definitely.
You made a try-scoring debut. You got 2 tries on your debut away at Whitehaven in the Cup. I remember a particularly memorable try against St Helens in Yestin Harris's full debut when Bobby Goulding missed that kick at the end there. You must have been pleased how you started with life at Leeds.
Takes play into that 20-metre area. Now Yestin Harris has the ball in his hands, and that's a good sign for Leeds. Crossfield kick comes in there. Sterling's in for the try. Sterling's in for the first try for Leeds. The referee played the advantage there. Leeds were all onside. He put his arms up straight away, and what he's done there is they've beaten St Helens at their own game.
That's right. How many times have we seen Bobby Goulding do that?
Oh, absolutely. I think the thing about Leeds at the time when I first got there was it's always had a lot of stars, always had a lot of flash players, as it were, but not many players that were prepared to do the hard work. And what happened with that team, I felt that team was sort of like a transition team that was based on a good work ethic. And to be honest, it reminds me, I know that might sound a little bit far-fetched, but it reminds me a little bit of what Manchester United is going through now, whereby they've lost all the star players, have lost their way a little bit. And they've started to get in players now that have a good work ethic, that want to play for the club, that want to do well for the club, and are more interested in the team rather than their own individual performance. And I felt that the Leeds team had got to the point whereby there was a lot of individuals in that team, whereas in our particular team, we weren't as blessed in terms of talent-wise throughout the thing. Very, very good players, don't get me wrong, outstanding players. But a lot of them were a bit early in their years. So we had Moz, we had Terry Newton, we had quite a lot of young players. We had Marvin Golden, we had Marcus St-Hilaire, lots of young players in the team, but no real structure, if you like, no real hardcore things. And then obviously then Barry McDermott came. Barry McDermott was there when I was there. Then we brought in Yestin, obviously massive. Richie Blackmore, massive. We then had Brad Godden. We started to bring in players that had a good work ethic, that had a good ethic about them. And that made a massive difference, in my opinion.
And a big part of that 97 season was the World Club Championship, with every team from over here going to Australia and vice versa. Before we look at that memorable night at Hetherington, what was the trip like to Australia? Because we went out there in the first block of games to play the Rams and the Cowboys. What's your memories of that trip?
Oh, just the massive culture difference. Unbelievable to see the game at such a level, because they were all superstars out there. We were superstars out there in their environment, because obviously it was probably one of the number one sport. It is the number one sport in their country, and it was well regarded and treated like that. So when we went out there, it was just the whole experience was just eye-opening all the time. It was like jaw dropping, looking, wow, there's just so much going on, and it was all revolving around. I suppose I could feel like it must feel like to be a Premiership footballer, to be honest. You know what I mean? Because everybody knows who you are, and they're like, know all about you, and who you're playing for, and they just want to talk to you. Everybody just wants to talk to you, etc. So it was a great experience. But one of the other things that we also felt was we were always the underdogs. So when we went out to Australia, we weren't regarded as being. It was just cannon fodder. That was the impression I got from the Australian media, and also from the way the Australians played the game, etc. So that we had that to contend with, and it was the culture more than anything else. Getting used to a different style of playing against a different type of player as well. So yeah, it was good.
And you got 2 tries against the Cowboys up in Townsville. What was that like, playing up in the tropics? A tough introduction to playing over there?
Oh, I love heat. I just love heat. So that was ideal for me. I mean, a few of the boys were struggling, but heat is what I love. I love training in the heat. I love being in warm weather. I love playing in warm weather. So it suited my game massively. Did that because the pitch was pristine and it was quick.
John Lomax doesn't get away with it, talking to the referee this time. It comes out to Blackmore, and it goes to Sterling. Sterling for the corner, and Sterling's in. Paul Sterling can score a try.
There was an excellent piece of tip-on play in this movement, Warren. It looked like it was just one of those backline movements that had gone wrong after the pass came in behind.
They spent too much time arguing, North Queensland.
They sure did. Sheridan put the ball in behind Richie Blackmore, but it was a terrific example of how to rebalance yourself once he was off his step. There it was, over the top of the defender, tipped it out, and very smart play from the winger, giving himself extra room and space.
And unfortunately, that was the game in which actually Richie Blackmore got injured. Actually, as he was giving me the space for the second try, he damaged his ankle ligaments and giving me the space. And I remember it like yesterday. I remember it vividly. He took 2 players out, gave me the space, and I went and scored. And that was it for Richie for quite some time, actually. And that's when my Barron run started. After that, I wasn't, because obviously you can't replace a Richie Blackmore as a person or as a player, really, in terms of his style of game. So I didn't score as many tries. I didn't get many opportunities, really, once Richard gone. So then I decided obviously in the Adelaide game, I decided that I had to change. I'm going to do it myself. Not really. No, it's not a good try.
Coming into that Adelaide game, the Super League clubs over here had taken a bit of a battering after all the big scores in the first lot of games. But were we confident going into that game against the Rams that we might be able to pull off a shock?
Actually, to be honest, we knew we were the underdogs because of the fact that we'd also lost a couple of key players. I think Barry McDermott had been injured prior to that. And we'd also lost, obviously, we'd lost Richie as well. So we'd lost two quite big characters and players, in our go forward kind of thing. And so it was always going to be a challenge. It was always going to be. But the other thing is that they travelled as well, because that makes a big difference. It takes you a while to acclimatise to the actual conditions. So they were a bit jet lagged anyway, like we were when we went across to Australia. We'd only been there like a few days and we were playing. It's like, and that journey is quite challenging. 24 hours on the plane, travelling. The change of circumstance, change of environment. It was very, very challenging, and they had the same. So obviously, they weren't as on point as what they probably should have been. So we knew we always know we've got a chance. We always believed in our own ability. We believed in each other, as it were. But yeah, you could say on paper we were definitely up against it at that point.
And then just before half time, we get in front. I think Yeston and Damien Gibson put on a move to get our nose in front.
Once I lost 10 metres. I don't think he's going to do it again. Harris with that grubber kick through. Now we're on for speed. This is Damien Gibson. Touchdown. Brilliant. Gibson. Harris, the chip through. As a first opening, Yeston Harris has been given.
Could you feel that from your memories of the game that we were getting on the front foot?
I wouldn't say that, because obviously the Australian sides are very, very good, and their game is based on the last 20 minutes. So we knew that they were always had it in their tank to come back at us and come back even stronger in the second half. So we knew we'd still have a game on our hand. We were just happy that we could hold on to the ball and we would win. So that was the basis on which we was playing, just to keep to the game plan and just do what we can. And then obviously we didn't, and they scored a try. So that was like, oops, that's not good. That's good. And then they edged in front, obviously.
And then the restart, when it's coming down to, what's your memories of that try? Still regarded as one of the greatest tries ever.
I don't think it's a case of holding on for the Leeds Rhinos. You don't hold on against Australians. You basically keep going forward and try to score points. This is Sterling. What a good run from him. That is a tremendous run, and he's fast as well. Look at this man go. That is an absolutely superb run, and Sterling has run nearly the length of the field for one of the tries of the season. It must be one of the tries of the World Club Championship. That is absolutely superb.
I noticed that there was a bit of a space on the outside of him, and that I thought, I'll step him, and then we'll see where we go from then. And then when I stepped him, obviously I had space, and then it was just down to just pure pace and just backing myself. And that try was a culmination of hard work and endeavour from both Edgar and Dean Bell, their contribution. That was the pinnacle of that. It was all the hard work and the talking and the giving me the confidence to be able to take a player on and to do what I do best, which is score tries. So although that try in itself as a moment was, for me, was a pinnacle of my career, in terms of what went into it was a lot more than what people see, and there was a lot of people that contributed to that supported me in achieving that, and it's more an acknowledgement of them as well.
I heard a good story the other year that the grand final and NRL winning coach Michael Maguire still gets ribbed from time to time from his players when they find the try on YouTube and that, because he was in the defensive line when you went past.
Absolutely. That's it. These things come back to haunt you.
And the atmosphere that night, obviously Leeds had that tough first season, 1996, and things were building in 97. But people talk about, really that night was when Super League arrived at Headingley, and fans, a nice sunny night, the South Stand in full voice. It seemed to be the real start of what's gone on since then.
Absolutely, yeah, I think so. It's just the impetus that was needed, the catalyst, if you like, to demonstrate that we had actually embraced it then, and that we were capable of competing, and it was a good win, and we demonstrated that we could win, and we could win well.
And you carried on that form. You got yourself picked for England the following year. You scored again on your debut for England over in Carcassonne. What's your memories of that time? Again,
another great experience. What can I say? Again, everything that happened at Leeds was just a culmination of having good teammates around me, having good people that helped, supported, and encouraged me, and believed in me. And because obviously I'd come into the game very, very late, and my experience of rugby league was very, very limited. Fortunately, I was blessed with the one asset that there's no substitute for, which is speed. So, but I did have a lot of people around me that was encouraging me and supporting me, and giving me that self-confidence, because that's what a lot of it's about, really. It's that confidence in yourself, and developing that self-confidence in your own ability, and believing that you can actually do the things that I did, So, and after that, it's just, I never looked back, to be honest. I never looked back. So I had, like I said, a great team around me.
And there aren't many players that can say they played in the World Cup. You had the honour of playing for Wales in the 2000 World Cup as well.
Indeed. Yeah, again, another great opportunity, another great experience. Thoroughly enjoyed my time there. It's a shame that I got injured, and that was my last game, really. That's that I played of rugby league, because the injury was one whereby it was going to take a long recovery, and I got to a point then whereby it was time to finish at the top, and that's always what I wanted to do. I got this great opportunity, and I didn't want to spoil it by staying in the game longer than I needed to, basically.
And you mentioned it earlier. You still stay in touch with a lot of lads. There's an ex-players WhatsApp group, and great to reminisce on your times together, and still have a bit of crack together.
Oh, 100%. That's not changed at all. I do find it quite amusing when I'm on the WhatsApp group and I see some of the banter that's going around. I think them boys have not changed, bearing in mind that they're like 20 or 30 years old, 20 years older now, and they're still behaving like they were back in the day. So it is very refreshing.
And how do you reflect on your time at Leeds?
Loved every minute of it. Loved every minute. Wouldn't have changed any aspect of it. Okay, there was the little bit of there was the incident at the end, but you're always going to get this kind of controversy. People have their own opinions and how things were. Wasn't what I wanted. Certainly wasn't what Leeds wanted. It's just one of them unfortunate situations that you find yourself in from time to time. I've no regrets whatsoever from beginning to end. Loved it. Loved the crowd. Loved the experience. Loved the players. Loved the management. You know what I mean? Made such a lot of good friends, great friends. I have no complaints. And
what are you up to these days outside of isolation? If we were in a normal time?
Oh gosh, well, actually, I've been running my own fitness company for the last 10 years, doing my own fitness centre, specialising in basically personal training, group personal training sessions, etc. So now, at the moment, with obviously isolation, I'm doing online now for my clients and members. So I'm doing it online, which is a new experience, using video conferencing, etc. And I just enjoy being in fitness. I just enjoy the whole environment. I enjoy helping people and supporting people in that, because the discipline's not that much different, although it's much more obviously intense as an athlete. But the same discipline is required to change your lifestyle, to resist temptation, to do the right thing, basically. So the spirit of Edgar Curtis, it continues. You mentioned Edgar earlier on. For those who don't remember Edgar or never had a chance to meet him, he was a very proud Texan who didn't know that much about rugby league technically, and he was a dangerous man when he got to jump into training sessions. Very dangerous man. Unfortunately, he used to bring his wrestling experience into the fore, which is not required, not to that degree, in rugby league. And I remember one particular training session where he put such a hit on one of the guys that we had to. It was bad from any subsequent training because it was one hell of a hit. You know what I mean? But Edgar Curtis, like I said, I can't say enough about the fella. A top bloke, knew his onions, knew exactly what to do. And if he didn't know something, he'd research it and he'd become an expert pretty much overnight in that particular aspect. And like I said, there are times when I still quote Edgar in my training sessions to some of my clients. That some of the comments that used to resonate in my head when he used to tell me to just keep going, keep focused, stay on the track, and it will come. And
just finally, this week, Super League celebrates 25 years since the first season. How proud is your try still remembered as one of the greatest of the summer era?
Oh, no, obviously that's the ultimate accolade to be remembered, and to be recognised and acknowledged by my peers and obviously the fans and the game that as making that contribution, and I'm humbled by that.